Everyone, Joe Waxman here, mediocre astrologer. Man, he's okay. What's up, guys? I hope you're doing okay. In this video, I want to look at planets conjunct the ascendant. I just did the video of planets conjunct the MC, and now we're doing planets conjunct the ascendant. And so, just what's the difference? Like, what does it mean? Like, if you have a bunch of planets conjunct the MC versus a bunch of planets or one planet conjunct the ascendant? Well, the ascendant is our personal identity, right? It represents our body. So people say it's the mask. It's not the mask. Yeah, it does affect your appearance, so I think people get confused by that. But it's our most personal sense of self, the ascendant, right? It's really our core identity. And the MC is much more akin to how we are in public, which is different. We're not necessarily, our public persona is not who we identify in a deep personal private way. Not that the ascendant is always private, but it is deeply personal, right? And we are always ourself, whether we are public or private. So the ascendant always is always there. It's always a part of things. Whereas the MC is really a worldly aspect. It's how we show up in the world. You could draw some parallels to the sun sign and position that we have, because the sun is also a very worldly planet, right? It rules the daytime and fame and notoriety and things like that. But yeah, what the planets that we have in the MC will be much more public, right? They will play out in the public arena, whereas planets on the ascendant will play out on ourselves personally, public or private, right? So that's essentially it. But we're going to look at all the planets, and I did the same format as before. Drinking my coffee. I have a whole big list for four examples for each planet, including the luminaries, all the planets, and two for each of the nodes. So there's a lot, and there might be some double overs because some people have more than one planet on the ascendant, so we'll get some repetitions. There will be more than four of certain ones. Um, all that being said, hit that like button for me, guys, if you can, and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below, book a reading. Just be sure, try, if you're going to leave a comment and you feel like you need to correct me, just make sure you're correct. Because sometimes people try and correct me and show off and they're not even correct. And it's annoying. It's like, I don't want to get in an argument, but it's like, I can't leave bad information on my page. So I just end up deleting it. So if I delete your comment, it's probably because you're wrong and you're trying to correct me and show off and you don't know what you're talking about. So, or you're leaving a rude comment. Anyway, um, let's share the screen. All right. We're going to start with Muammar Gaddafi. He's a great example of Pluto rising. I've not covered his chart before, but Pluto is excellent for any sort of military general, strategist, powerful leader, right? Who needs to be very, not just powerful, but very strategic minded, right? And it's in the sign of Leo. Leo is the king, so this is a very natural leader. We can pull some significance from the Scorpio sign as Pluto's the co-ruler, so fourth house, which is land, homeland, right? People with fourth house activations are going to care a lot about their homeland, right? So this is a very personal. He takes it very personally. If it's in the first house, it's very personal and it's like deep personal identity. So he really identifies with Libya, and he's a strategic sort of king or leader, right? With Pluto there, very powerful, very obsessive, and he was a great leader. And I so much so annoying, really, if you just want to talk, like, just since we're Gaddafi's on, because Libya was doing fantastic. Libya was a wonderful, thriving Middle Eastern nation with Gaddafi at the helm. And I don't believe that the whole Lockerbie bombing thing, I think it was very fishy. Like he they wanted him out because of the politics. He had the gold dinar, and it wasn't a central bank country right? It wasn't a debt slavery system. He was liberating his people, right? And he was anti-Western. Um, so they took him out for that reason. But Libya is way worse. They have it's open slave trades right now, right? And nobody talks about that. All these woke social activists, they're very they cherry pick. It's usually like, okay, so like the Jews, right? If the Jews are involved, right? But everything else they just fucking ignore. But Obama and Hillary Clinton fucking destroyed a whole nation, Libya, and you won't hear a peep out of the wokesters crying crocodile tears about Gaza, right? They just nothing, right? Anyway, let's move on. Poor Libya. That's all I gotta say. They fucked up Libya. All right. Julian Assange has Neptune in Sag rising. It's retrograde. And again, we can look at the sign of co-rulership of Pisces. By the way, I look to the main rulers. I stick to the main rulers, but there is some association. There will be some activation and energetic transference from these co-rulerships because they have a similar energy, right? So they're pulling on each other. But for most purposes, I would look to Jupiter as the main um ruler of Pisces. I stick to the traditional rule because they're more physical. All right. The outer planets are more energetic, spiritual. So like, they have an energetic tie, but they're not going to be like the main physical representation of that sign or house. Right. So, but we're pulling in fourth, fifth house stuff, and that's accurate for Julian Assange. Care of the homeland, the nation. Fifth house would also be entertainment. Wikipedia had some elements of that, right? Um, and it's retro. It's at 0 degrees. Neptune represents loss, among many other things. Loss. Um, Interesting. Sagittarius is about truth, right? And retrograde is going to go against the grain. It's not really going to go along with the crowd, it's not an NPC. And retrogrades are really trying to define themselves from that NPC sheep mindset. um what I mean, if you don't know NPC, non-playable character, it means like somebody who just really their main agenda, even if they say it's otherwise, is to fit in, right? That's an NPC. Their whole thing is just fit in, and that's a mob mentality. It's just like whatever CNN says, whatever ABC, NBC, what the mainstream media, whatever people are marching in the streets with, carrying the signs, whatever the majority goes with, that's what they choose. That's the bottom line. That's what an NPC is. A retrograde is trying to pull us away from that. So we're not going with the crowd. We're not going with the sheepy herd, right? Yeah. So 0 degrees will mean the pure expression of that. Neptune represents loss. Um, Isolation, right? He's been in jail for forever. It's really, yeah, it's sad. It's sad. And it is opposite Saturn. Saturn is limitations, isolation. No, Saturn's not isolation, but Saturn can, when it's tied to sort of Neptune or well, especially 12th house themes, it can represent jails and being trapped in isolation, right? Um, yeah, but Saturn in the 12th can often relate to that. But here we have Saturn not in the 12th, but opposite Neptune in the first. So I still think there's some of that. And he does have 12th house planets, right? Um, yeah. MC Lord in the eighth, but I can't spend too long here. But main thing is that this um Sagittarius and Neptune. So like truth seeking and loss. And what else? Idealism for Julian Assange. He must be highly motivated. Plus, he got Jupiter really close by, so philosophically idealistic about the truth, right? That's very important to him. And dealing with secrets, Scorpio, Moon, Jupiter, eighth house, Sun in Cancer, Mercury. Mercury's more in the ninth, but Cancer is still secretive. Neptune's ruling the fifth cusp, but most of the fourth. Yeah. Um, So yeah, that's interesting. Um, Erica Badu, Jupiter rising, Jupiter and Sag. We can also Neptune, right? Neptune for women, really, especially in the ascendant or close to the MC. I'm sorry, close to the ascending, or in the first house, can create a really exotically beautiful look, right? And she has some of that, right? It's not like overt, but yeah, definitely she has that. Jupiter, people often say Jupiter rising will expand the body. I have not seen that. No, what expands the body is a weak ascendant lord. So, like if Jupiter were in a poorly dignified sign, oftentimes those people have problems with weight, regardless if any ascendant lord. Right? But there's got to be other factors. But Jupiter rising does not necessarily make you fat. No, it makes you a big persona, very large. Jupiter is ruling here the fourth. Um, So youth and obviously the ascendant, making her as a person very powerful, right? She can get by with just her name, right? Erica, but she doesn't need to join a band. She doesn't need to be a group. She's a solo artist. It's very powerful. Jupiter is expanding her presence, making her a kind of very larger than life kind of persona. Yeah, and fourth house is youth, right? From a young age. Probably she was singing and uh, playing instruments. Also, like Pisces, very creative, right? So it's bringing in a lot of creativity to her, right? Lucille Ball. Now, Lucille Ball, I handpicked because even though it's not exactly conjunct the MC, I thought it was a really great example of Moon in the first, or Moon conjunct the MC. It's widely conjunct, but because it's Moon in poor dignity, Moon in Capricorn, but Moon is so expressive, right? And Lucille Ball, I love Lucy. If you're young and you probably maybe you don't even know who Lucille Ball is, but I recommend you go watch some old I Love Lucy. Great slapstick comedy. Of course, Uranus also in the first. That helps a lot. But the moon in poor dignity, what it does, moon, first of all, is emotions, right? So in the first house, these people wear their heart on their sleeves with moon in the first house or conjunct the ascendant. And so you can really see all their emotions right up front. When it's in Capricorn, Capricorns are very non-expressive, but it's like a contradiction here with the unemotional moon in Capricorn, but moon in the first house, right? So it's like this weird combination of this Capricorn moon that can't hide, because Capricorn moon kind of likes to hide. I mean, a lot of times it really just likes to not be emotional, not express emotions. It's a very difficult time expressing emotions. Um, but here it's like making a fool out of itself, right? And that's why it's funny, right? Because it's poor dignity, and it's like, Lucy being all goofy, silly, right? Uranus too, of course, but um, this also can represent some emotional abuse by her husband, right? Because here we see it's the fourth lord in the first house and not in good dignity. So this kind of like represents her husband, Desi Arnaz. And I don't know too much about their relationship, but here, and it's not physical because Moon's not physical usually. I guess it could be, but this is more about like I feel emotional abuse, emotional neglect, some sort of emotional yeah, something where it's not like if this was a Mars, Mars ruling the seventh and the first, that's definitely physical abuse. We'll see that. But this is more like emotional neglect or abuse or something like that. David Beckham. David Beckham is married to Victoria Beckham, Posh Spice. He has Mercury and South Node. South Node is out of sign, but Mercury conjunct the ascendant by 2 degrees. Exact same Mercury as me, 25 degrees Taurus is Mercury conjunct Algol, fixed star Algol. Yeah. Mercury is ruling the fifth house, so entertainment, right? Games and entertainment. Pluto's in there. And it's ruling the second house. Interestingly enough, he's not a speaker, but this definitely is going to not in terms of soccer, not in terms of his sports career, but it's going to make him want to look good, right? It's going to make him want to, dress really nice and have a lot of self-esteem. And why is he so famous as a soccer? Like, not all soccer players are nearly as famous as David Beckham. Um, that's part of it because he's bringing in a lot of like surfacey qualities into his identity. Like, he looks good. He's married to Posh Spice, right? He looks like a really, a catch, beautiful, successful man, right? I mean, I'm saying like other people think he's beautiful. I mean, whatever. He does have Venus in the second house, so again, that's accentuating the kind of looks, the appearance, the aesthetics. And that's a mutual reception, second and first. But Mercury also rules the hands, and short distance travel in general, right? Um, yeah, what else? Skills. Mercury's very skillful, right? What there was something else. Oh yeah. Well, North Node, and I mean just real quickly, North Node, Neptune and Pisces, Neptune and Sag in the seventh, and he married Posh Spice, who has I just did her chart with the MC, planets conjunct the MC. She has Jupiter and Venus conjunct in Pisces on the MC. And so this describes the partner he's looking for, Neptune and Sag. And so Jupiter and Venus in Pisces conjunct the MC. North Node of Sag is similar energy. Neptune, Jupiter, right? Neptune, Jupiter. Jupiter rules Sag, Neptune in Sag, right? So not the Venus, but the Venus is kind of obligatory. It's like, she's a woman, so that yeah, it works, right? Anyway, I'm going to point that out. Mr. Bieber. Really super intense chart, powerful as can be, right? Can't wait to see Bieber grow up. Like, I hope he really matures, like not just like, you know, superficially, but Jupiter stationary, Pluto stationary, North Node. Oh my God. And Scorpio is so intense, right? So intense. Um, and you can see he has this kind of destructive quality to him, right? Tattoos. Sometimes he's like a wreck, a mess. Like, we don't know what he's been doing, like drinking, drugs, who knows, right? Um, yeah, stuff like that. Plus, North Node conjunct Pluto in the first. That's bad for him. Not, I don't want to say bad, but it's not easy. It's not easy. I'll tell you why. Because I have North Node in conjunct. I have North Node in the first in Scorpio, and South Node in Taurus indicates a youth of luxury, of abundance, of wealth, materialism, of comfort. Taurus. It's like, living the good life, right? North Node in Scorpio is not at all like that. North Node in Scorpio is like deep and like gritty and like, survival and like, death and rebirth and transformation, plus Pluto, stationary Pluto. It's so intense. Like, this dude is just going to get way more intense as he gets older, right? Luckily, he's got Jupiter here, and that's going to help him. That's going to protect him a lot, but it's so intense and lonely. Jupiter also is going to help with the loneliness, but like, because, North Node is like, you're moving away from others. You're moving into yourself, and deeply with Scorpio and Pluto, deeply into the self, right? Deeply psychological, deeply obsessive, right? And then you just like, you can't relate to other people nearly as well. Like, it's really leaves you alone, it moves you into yourself so deeply. And then Scorpio wants intimacy, but it's like a challenge, right? So this is one of the challenges of North Node and Scorpio in the first, especially with Pluto here. Yeah, and it's all first house because Pluto rules Scorpio. So yeah, tough for Justin Bieber. He's still young, so he's still got a little while, but it's gonna, when he hits like late 30s, early 40s, it's gonna hit him hard. Bjork. All right. Neptune rising in Scorpio, and she really portrays this wonderfully. That's why I chose this chart. This exotic, so exotic, like dark, scorpionic look. Beautiful, fascinating, right? You see her, dressed up with all her various outfits. And it's like this Neptunian scorpionic fantasy that's gorgeous and it's like just leaves you breathless. You're like, wow, amazing. And Neptune tying into the Pisces IC, which is the fifth whole sign house, but it is still the IC. So entertainment from a young age, right? Creativity from a young age with all these Pisces, I see. And she was singing from a young age. She was a young singer. She has this very intense T square, which I'm not going to get into because series is kind of I'd have to do some research to find out how that plays out, but that's really interesting anyway. But the key would be Pluto, Uranus, conjunct the AMC, square Mercury. So that's going to really make her expression very dramatic, right? Very powerful and intense. Charlie Chaplin. The moon in Scorpio, right? So you compare Lucille Ball to Charlie Chaplin, you can see the kind of pattern there where they're wearing their heart on the sleeves, and that's why they're great performers, both of them. He has it in Scorpio, and they're both in poor dignity. Scorpio, moon in Scorpio, moon in Capricorn, both have poor dignity. But because of that, it lends itself very much to slapstick, right? This emotional kind of slapstick, right? Where like they make fun of themselves. They fall over, do stupid things, you know and it works brilliantly, right? um Moon is ruling the ninth house, so he is very actually philosophical and high-minded, especially with the north node there. And you can see that with his movies, especially in The Dictator, I believe, where it was like one of his first talkies, or maybe his first talkie, where he talks and he gives this fantastic speech, brilliant, where he just like alluding to Hitler and the Nazis, and he's just like powerful, inspirational speech, very ninth house, right? Very philosophical, high-minded, aspirational, inspirational, emotional, right? Heartfelt and deep, Scorpio. So I'm sure he had it tough with this, right? A very deep, and he couldn't hide it. You're not going to hide your pains with Moon and Scorpio and the conjunct the Ascendant, right? It's going to be so written all over you, right? Hard on your sleeve. Um, if we want to take it farther, we could look at the dispositor Mars in the seventh, conjunct Venus and Taurus, right? The relationships going to be very important to him, but essentially, that's it for that. Phil Collins. Now, if you're a Gen Xer, pretty much similar, well, similar but different to Chaplin. If you're alive in the 80s, let's put it that way, if you're a boomer or Gen Xer or somewhere in between, you remember Phil Collins' face was everywhere in the 80s. Like it was just his face. Well, what's funny about that is that the Ascendant represents the face, right? And not only his face, it was like his music was all over the radio, and it was like the drum, doo 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 doo, right? But yeah, Moon is Scorpio in the first house. So yeah, his face is being accentuated because like anytime there's like a bunch of planets in the first house, you're going to see like the person, especially their head or their face, like that's going to be very prominent. Aries first house, that represents the head and the face, especially. But let's see, Moon also ninth house, so very similar to Chaplin, but he's got a Libra rising, so it's out of sign, but still close enough, right? So Phil Collins going to also be philosophical, high-minded, and he was like he wrote songs that were very deeply meaningful and powerful and emotionally driven, about all kinds of stuff, social issues or deep like personal experiences that he had that were very moving, right? And there is also this loose trine, but it's dispositing the Uranus. Moon is dispositing Uranus. Uranus relates to rhythm, right? So drums, right? So that is tying it in, right? So there. If you want to look at singing, second lord is in domicile, in Pisces in the fifth house. So that's very it's North Node and Mars. So that's also very relevant. Fitting. Sean Connery. This one's great. Absolutely great. Saturn in domicile in Capricorn retrograde, exactly conjunct the ascendant. And if if you ever seen Sean Connery like just be himself on TV, it's like amazing, right? It's so he's like the ultimate um I want to say like almost like chauvinist, but like in a good way. Like I don't know, because I'm not a woman. I don't know how women take him, but I mean I think he's like funny as heck, and like he gets away with it. And he's even talking about like like how it's okay under certain circumstances to slap a woman. He's like fully backs it up. He's like not blinking, not like shifting his stance. He's like, yeah, you know. I don't remember what he said, so I'm not gonna paraphrase. I'm not gonna but he's just like, yeah, you can slap a woman sometimes. Um, but anyway, because of the retrograde, he's not going to go along with the PC woke status quo. He's just going to be Sean Connery, right? And he doesn't care. I mean, why would he care? He's like super duper successful, and like he's already conquered the world basically. So he's not afraid of upsetting people. And his first and second lord for acting, for speaking. That's excellent. And he's just a boss. He's a boss, right? Boss man. Um, Sean Connery, James Bond, one of the greatest, legendary actors of all time. Okay. Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon. He's a felon. Yeah. It's got Jupiter in Pisces, conjunct the M's, ascendant. Sorry. And Jupiter makes him big, expansive, larger than life, generous. I don't even, I don't listen to Jimmy Fallon, so it's got look at this, grand mutable cross, amazing, right? Not super tight, but tight enough. Jupiter's ruling the MC and the ascendant, so it's a very powerful, it's a prominent planet for him, and it also shows like he's a really perfect guy for being a talk show host. We see his humor here with Mercury conjunct Uranus and Libra air sign. We get the fire with the North Node and Neptune and MC. As always, I say comedy comes from a combination of usually most it's almost always strong air with then some fire to back it up, and Uranus is often involved. But it's usually mostly like Aquarius, Gemini's, okay, sometimes Libra, but Uranus in Libra helps a heck of a lot. And then some kind of fire combination. And then there are other things we'll see. But yeah, Jupiter just kind of makes him like Jupiterian, like big, expansive, generous. People like him. It's a great benefic. It's in good dignity. It's retrograde, so that's interesting. So he's probably, but Jupiter's very, because it's so generous, it's not going to be like Saturn retrograde. It's going to be much more, not much nicer, right? Jupiter's very nice. So he's a nice guy. But there's some retrograde, so he's got some independence there. So it's probably common. He probably tries to balance his niceness with his retrograde, but it's not religious anyway. At least we know that. All right, Megan Fox, Mars, Capricorn, Ascendant, right? And it very much affects her looks. I mean, she got Neptune in the background. That's not, yeah, it probably helps a little bit, but really Mars. And she's got this fierce kind of look, right? Look at her face. It's very fierce, very, very intense, strong, right? And actually, what's funny is that she made this comment, which a lot of people picked up on and thought she was like that. She said like, during like some award ceremony, she's like, oh, I feel like I can't remember exactly the quote. She's like, I feel like a man, or like I'm actually transgender or something like that, because like I can't remember the exact wording, but it was some allusion to that, because what she was saying was that she doesn't feel feminine, even though she's a woman. Like if you know what a woman looks like, she's definitely, but some people took it to mean, oh, she was born a man. And I'm like, no, look at her body. I mean, you see her in a bathing suit, you see her pregnant. Like, there's no way she's a trans trying to fool people. But what she's saying, because I know astrology, is that she feels like a man because she got fucking Mars and Capricorn on her ascendant. So she personally identifies with this very masculine, strong quality, this feature of Mars, exalted Mars on the ascendant. That's why she's in a lot of action movies, right? And her whole thing is kind of aggressive, right? She's not very feminine. Even though she's pretty, she's not that feminine. Mars ruling the third house of expression, short distance travel, also the MC with Pluto here. So yeah, definitely powerful career, and public image is very personal to her, right? Right. And so is third house expressions. Of course, second house has Jupiter and Pisces there. That's great for speaking roles as well. So second, third, first, 10th. Yeah. Ariana Grande. She's got a really powerful ascendant, perfectly lined up with the conjunction in the early 90s of Neptune, Uranus, conjunct her ascendant. Oh, exactly at 20 degrees Capricorn. Right, so the Capricorn look is going to be very buttoned up, very proper, very um, grounded, right? And like it has this kind of bossy quality, like this like masculine. I'm not saying she's masculine because there's also Uranus and Neptune, so it's a really interesting combination. It's this Capricornian quality with the, very serious business kind of attire, business kind of motif or something like that. That is at the same time exotic and almost otherworldly. When you get the Neptune Uranus combination, Neptune is so exotic. Uranus is more like alien like. That's what Uranus comes up with. We'll see it in other ascendants. I have it. I have Uranus rising. Uranus rising can create a revolutionary quality, but gives, as far as looks, more like an alien, whereas Neptune is like an exotic goddess, right? Can be extremely beautiful. Also, look at the trine, perfect trine to Venus in Taurus. So yeah, beauty for sure, right? Look at everything else. It's like, oh my gosh, her world is must be crazy. Like, look at all these red lines, the squares and conjuncts, semi-squares, sesquisquares. It's like there's a lot going on. I mean, she's got looks galore, but everything else is probably like not all. She's probably getting by on just her looks and her voice, I guess, Um, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know her, but there's a lot going on. I mean, Pluto and Scorpio in the 10th. Sheesh. Anyway, let's see. Neptune pulling in second house significations. Also Uranus, second house cusp, co-ruler, so voice, right? And yeah, it's mostly second house. I mean, they're both, because Pisces is not ruling a cusp, but Uranus is, so Aquarius is. So yeah, definitely first, second house, which is interesting, being a single. Alexander the Great. Now he had Uranus conjunct the MC, but Pluto conjunct the ascendant. And he was a military genius, military leader, right? He led the Greek army to conquer many new lands and territories, right? Aries, god of war, Pluto, the strategic genius, right? So we saw Muammar Gaddafi, Alexander the Great, um, and eighth lord, eighth playing in eighth house significations, also dispositing the moon. So yeah, very much Scorpio, power, domination, control, right? Ruling over others. Yeah, obsession, deep desire, deep psychological, strategic genius. Che Guevara, the revolutionary. Now he's got Uranus in Aries direct, right? So Uranus is more the revolutionary. Pluto is more like the conqueror, right? Uranus wants to break free. Pluto wants to control. So like, the two might be at odds. Pluto will come and, take over your country. Uranus will rebel and throw off the shackles. Right. So um both in Aries. That's really interesting. But he was pretty much I mean, because it wasn't retrograde, I know, because like I know what Uranus retrograde rising is like because I have it. He was pretty much, as far as revolutionary, pretty status quo. Like he was a revolutionary within bounds. Like he just like, oh, we're just gonna do the normal revolutionary thing rather than the revolutionary thing, which is to be completely independent. But anyway, um, Uranus is ruling the 11th house of society, of groups, networks, social in the big sense. So thinking about society, right? Um, yeah, hopes, wishes, dreams, all that. So yeah, very Aquarius will rule like utopian, dystopian kind of civilizations. So he's trying to impose, not like he's breaking free from something, but he wants to impose a very draconian, tyrannical society. I mean, he's like killing gays and stuff, killing anyone who disagreed with him. I mean, he was not a great guy, really not. And communism is just shit. It's just like the philosophy for idiots or power mongers. And it has nothing, it does nothing. It's the exact opposite of what it pretends to be. It makes the people slaves. It's slavery for the people and riches for the leaders. That's what communism is. Kevin Hart, he's really funny. Um, so Kevin Hart, Saturn, Saturn North Node, Virgo, and the Ascendant, which is interesting because you would not think of a comedian having Saturn rising. But what houses does Saturn rule? Yeah. Fifth, entertainment. Six, daily grind and work effort. So it's Saturn, rising. Kevin is probably a lot more Saturnian than we realize. Okay, so first of all, he's got the Mars in Gemini, conjunct the MC. So he comes off like this kind of aggressive but funny at the same time. And like he actually did this movie where he was like an action star, but a comedy action star. Like he's like, but he's because he's a little guy, but then he's got this very prominent Mars, so he wants to be like kind of like he's always like competing with The Rock, and he's like a midget. He's not a midget, but he's very small. But he's got this Mars. He's like always fighting like as a little guy, but it's Gemini, so it's kind of funny, right? But then we look at so Gemini, Gemini is an air sign. It is funny. It can be very funny. But we also look to Mercury and Jupiter. Mercury's his ascendant lord. Jupiter, let's see, Jupiter is the fourth and seventh, but more importantly, it's in Leo, it's in the 12th, and they're conjunct each other. So Jupiter to Mercury really expands the expression, right? I have it in a wider conjunction in my 7th house in Taurus, so that makes me more expressive. It does kind of destroy Mercury's like detail mindedness, so that's why I tend to be a little bit loose in my mercurial side of things. Like it's hard for me to get too focused and detailed, because the Jupiter just wants to expand and go to the big picture. But for expression, especially in Leo, it makes them like very dramatic, and it's tying into this Mars because it's actually disposited. Gemini, Mercury, it's dispositing the Mars, so it's like this Mars in Gemini goes to this Mercury, Jupiter, and it really just creates this very big, bold, creative expression. It's in the 12th, but it's Leo. So it's creative, very highly creative and expressive. So this Saturn, he probably is very hardworking, right? It is the fifth lord, but also the sixth. And he's probably running shit behind the scenes. It's just that his expression is very comical, so he can hide this Saturn, but he's probably very Saturnian underneath. We probably don't get to see that as much, right? Saturn and Virgos, just it's not messing around. It's let's get down to business, right? Let's work hard. Let's get shit done. All right, Jay-Z. Now Jay-Z has South Node and Pluto in South Node conjunct the MC, Pluto in the first with Moon, Uranus. But this is South Node conjunct the MC. So yeah, with North Node conjunct the descendant, then this person, especially in later life, will find their person and really just stick to them. And for him, it's Beyonce. And it doesn't mean that they can never get divorced, or somebody with North Node on the descending won't get divorced, but it'll be very like they'll be tied to somebody, and then maybe they'll get the they'll have a very powerful relationship. Relationships will be very important to them, especially as they get older, right? But when they're young, it shows a lot of confidence and a lot of self-awareness, as well as when South Node is conjunct the Ascendant, North Node the Descendant. When they're young, they can have multiple partners. They don't get attached, but they get attached to one person when they get older. But when they're young, they can many partners, right? And they're just like, I don't care, right? The more the better, the more the merrier, right? But they're very confident in themselves. South Node conjunct the Ascendant, right? Yeah. It's tricky. It's not you see this often with celebrities, and they don't always do that well. Sometimes they die young. See that a lot in the 27 Club, but obviously Jay-Z did not die young. And I'm obviously not talking about all the aspects that we could go through. I'm just looking at the Ascendant. Here we have Scarlett Johansson. Scorpio, holy Scorpio. No, but she's got actually it's Sag rising, and she got Sun right on the Ascendant. Excuse me, 0 degrees Sagittarius. And Sun is her 9th house lord. So sun rising. She's born in the sunrise, right? And you could literally see that 7 a.m. Sun was rising. So sun on the Ascendant is their person, their identity is very sunny. It's like really combined, and they have a very big, bold, bright personality. You're going to bring in significations of the house of rules, in this case 9th house. So adventure, right? She's probably high-minded, right? Likes philosophy, religion, higher studies, and all that, but also adventure. I mean, Sagittarius, right? So she's gonna, and you see this in the movies, that she's always in movies where she's obviously the Scorpio is going to play a huge role in the kind of movies that she chooses, but also very adventurous movies, right? Where she's just like running around doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah, and the sun definitely helps. It really just makes her as a person just kind of big and bright and shiny, and huge star, right? Scarlett Johansson. What else is interesting is that her Pluto, if you look at transits, her Pluto throughout her life is gonna just hit every single one of these planets, right? And right now it's right here. It's about to hit our Mars in a few years, but or maybe 2025. I'm not sure when it'll hit, but 2025 will get close. Anyway, 2026. But it's already gone over all. So she's like deeply Plutonified, right? She's already got these Scorpio planets, but Pluto has literally, gone back and forth over every single one of her planets. So she's had like many experiences of Pluto and transformation. So she's like, deep, powerful, bright star, Hollywood star, adventurous. Angelina Jolie got Venus in Cancer on the Ascendant. And of course, Venus, for men or for women on the Ascendant rising, is going to make them more beautiful. It's also the same with the sun. People say like, oh, the Ascendant is where we get our looks. We get our looks also from the sun. We get our looks from everything, right? All the planets, but Ascendant and sun mostly, right? But Venus conjunct the Ascendant will make a person more beautiful, generally speaking. And sweet-natured Venusian. Right? relationship to beauty, relationship to relationships themselves, um, arts, aesthetics, all these things. It's ruling the fourth and the 11th. So fourth house, when she was young, right? She was a young, um, she was already in movies as a young, I mean, her parents as well. And that's also a fourth indication, right? I think her father was an actor. Interesting that there's this square to Venus, actually the T square, Uranus and Chiron. Uranus is retrograde forces, definitely bringing in a lot of rebellion from a young age to her. And I think that's accurate. She was rebellious and also deeply depressed, I think, as youth, because it's the Cancer, Saturn in Cancer in the 12th. So like this kind of very heavy quality. This is also an indication that she could be trapped by her partner. In this case, not anymore. Brad Pitt would be this Saturn in Cancer in the 12th. That's a kind of a prison sentence. Imprisoned by your partner is how that can play out. In a not a good way, because Saturn's not in good dignity here, right? Anyway, 11th house for social concerns, right? And it's Venus in Cancer, social concern. So like she adopts foreign children and stuff like that. Venus, Cancer, mother, right? Concerning about the world. So anyway, she's concerned about social things in a motherly way, in a caring, nurturing way. Beyonce Knowles. Also loaded first 12th, first whole sign house, but Venus and Pluto. Venus in Libra. And she has this thing where she goes like, she has like an alter persona, alter ego, Sasha Fierce, right? And that would be more like the Pluto. But the Venus is going to bring in the beauty, the arts, the aesthetics, the balance, the creativity. Let's see, Venus ruling the 8th again. That kind of Sasha Fierce, right? The kind of intensity, depth, dominance. This Pluto square Chiron is touchy. Chiron in the 8th, that definitely shows some kind of, feels to me, especially with the in conjunctive, some kind of loss, right? Some kind of deep wound or rejection. Something this Chiron's not doing. It's also Neptune. I'm not sure how that plays out. It's also opposite Moon and Uranus. So, ooh, like there's some real stuff going on here we don't know about. Yeah. So Venus ruling the 8th and the Ascendant, right? Interesting. Now she is one of these Illuminati types. I know that. It's like pretty obvious. Her and Jay-Z, right? So it could be related to that. 8th house is occultism, which definitely, ties into the whole Illuminati type thing. So, but anyway, Venus, Pluto, obsessive relationships, powerful, you know, yeah, very powerful and obsessive relationships. She's married to Jay-Z. Anyway. Mila Kunis. Now, Mila Kunis is kind of surprising in that she has Uranus stationary conjunct her ascendant. She's not a revolutionary in the same sense that like Che Guevara was, but she looks like an alien. If you look at her face, she kind of looks like an alien, right? So she has this, like, and when you start to compare and contrast, like she does have Neptune in the first, by the way. So she does have like she's bringing as well this Neptunian quality, but more so this Uranian quality. a stationary Uranian quality. It gives her this very exotic look, not like Neptune, more like Uranus, which is more alien-like instead of, ethereal goddess, which is Neptune, right? Um, by the way, they say Neptune is masculine, but I think it shows up much more as feminine usually. In my energetically, to me, Neptune is feminine. So I know the archetype, the mythology is masculine, Neptune, the sea god. To me, the effect, the essence of Neptune is feminine. So anyway, just wanted to throw that in there. But yeah, and Mila Kunis is really cool because like how many actresses or actors would take a role like being the voice of Meg on Family Guy, where Meg is the butt of like almost every single joke, right? And she loves it. Like it's hilarious, right? And of course, who else is going to make fun of themselves more than Uranus rising, right? Like I love to make fun of it's my thing, right? I'm the mediocre astrologer, right? Man, I'm okay. Um, she's Meg, and she's got Uranus stationary on the ascendant rising. So Uranus is humor, obviously. So she's making fun of herself. She likes to make fun of herself. So I mean, she's probably so it's very enlightened, very Uranus rules awakenings, enlightenment, revolutionary, independence, very powerful. So she's probably not offended by anything. She'll be like, if you make fun of her, she'll jump right in and well, maybe. I mean, Uranus can be hypersensitive too, right? So it depends. So I don't know about that, but I'm hypersensitive to criticism, but at the same time, I like to make fun of myself. So it can go either way. But she also has Jupiter here, so it's in dignity, good dignity. So that helps a lot. Uranus is co-ruling the Aquarius third cusp, right, with the part of fortune here. So also for expression, that makes a lot of sense. Jude Law. Jude Law. He's not a Jewish lawyer, but he is Jude Law. All right. He's got Neptune and then Venus. And so yeah, for it even works for guys like, Neptune, Venus, like beauty, exotic, right? Yeah, he's got that, he's got looks, right? I mean, that's one of the things he's known for. So I'm not sure which one I was pulling this. We'll look at both. All right, Neptune, Pisces. So that's fourth whole sign house, but third, most of the third, it's not even ruling a cusp, but it's pulling in the third house significations. So communication, expression, and creativity, right? And then Venus, sixth, and MC Lord, right? So that's the real significant one. The MC Lord in the first, that tends to make a person much more likely to be famous, or at least, really wanting to be in the public. It's very personal for them, and it's a natural connection, right? Same with Ascendant Lord in the 10th. This connection to the public. And so third, yeah. And then sixth, so probably very competitive as well. I mean, Venus is going to be softer about it, but like daily mundane stuff. Maybe he likes cooking. Maybe he likes decorating the house, right? Venus, you know. So stuff like that. I mean, we tend to only know these people for their, you know, what they're famous for, but they have their whole people, and they might have like hobbies that we know nothing about. Anyway, Heath Ledger, um, powerful, exalted sun conjunct the ascendant. So a very big, bright persona, identity, ascendant and sun, two main components of the personality, conjunct, exact, and where sun is exalted. Right? And it's ruling the fifth house of entertainment. A lot of ego, pride here. And a lot of 12th house Pisces activity, unfortunately, with Uranus and Scorpio in the 8th. And he died. Obviously, a lot of water. Look, Moon, Jupiter. And this is one of the reasons people loved him, this Moon Jupiter combination, because even though it's wide, they're both in such good dignity and they love each other anyway. So like Moon Jupiter and Cancer is one of the, you see that in certain people's charts. It's like primo. It's like, yeah, we love to see that, right? Great combination. But so much water, right? Kurt Cobain had an overabundance of water too. It's just like really hard. Makes so much emotions and depth and feeling and depression and sadness. It's like if they get sad, if they overdo like the luxury, the drugs, the drinking, like the spending, the sex, it's like they go into the low side and it's too much. It's just too heavy, too, they just can't take it. Um, you know. Mr. Bruce Lee, also Sun and Sag. Um, not all, also Sun conjunct the Ascendant, but Sun and Fire sign. So Sun ruling the ninth house. Be like water, my friend. Of course, Bruce Lee, very philosophical, very high-minded, right? Yep. And the star, right? Totally star. I mean, Sun is a star. Sun is the star. So Sun conjunct the Ascendant is star. And then ninth house, yeah, like philosophy. Uh, yeah, and then this very powerful, we know this very powerful T square, mainly Pluto, Mars, but also, you know, the opposition of Mars to Jupiter and Saturn, you know, it's that's going to bring in the fighting, the opposition. This is the training here, the Pluto square Mars, that's the him training, you know, constantly training. Here's we have the fighting, the actual opposing. Yeah, oppositions do invoke other people, right? So squares don't, not necessarily. Squares, it could be like an internal division that we're like constantly trying to resolve through hard work and effort. Madonna. All right. Um, yeah, Pluto, Mercury, Ceres moon. But Mercury exalted in domicile, conjunct the ascendant, and it's also the MC Lord, right? So that's very powerful. It is retrograde, and if you hear her loosely, candidly, she's very belligerent. Like she's always like she's gonna express that retrograde. Uh, you know, it's not only Mercury retrograde, it's Mercury retrograde conjunct the ascendant, so it's deeply personal. It's gonna make her rebellious. It's gonna make her disagreeable, right? Also very picky and you know, Virgo-ish, like a virgin, right? I'm sure she wasn't looking at astrology when she wrote that song, or I don't know who wrote it, but she sang it. Very fitting for a Virgo. Virgo all over the place here. Um, what else to say? Mercury is expression. Mercury is communication. And Virgo is just like knowing exactamundo what they want. It's got to be perfect with Virgo. Of course, second house activation, 12th house, creativity, all that. And MC Lord in the first, and good dignity with the moon. Moon, you know, heart on the sleeve, expression. Right? Mozart, South Node Uranus for the brilliant genius, but also the rhythm. Pisces, creativity. North Node conjunct first in Virgo, perfectionism. Right, so childhood genius, South Node Uranus, um, Pisces. So Uranus and Pisces, creative genius, South Node, 7. Right. And there's no rulership with the nodes, so I'm not gonna, you know, it's not pulling in any simplification. It's just like relationships when young, and then more, you know, into himself as he gets older, right? And funny relationships. Uh, yeah, I looked at that before, but we'll leave that for another time. Um, but yeah, Mars in 0 degrees Cancer. Mr. Musk, Mercury rising. I had I had a different time for him originally. I think I put 6:30 a.m. Then I checked on I don't know why, I don't know what happened, but yeah, I saw him when on my research and it said 7:30 a.m. On the website that I use was it Astro Theme? I think so. Anyway, where I check my celebrity birth chart times. Anyway, Mercury rising, and that is fitting for Mr. Musk, Elon Musk. He's an interesting character. I mean, like, yeah, I'm not into the transhumanism stuff at all, and like, no, thank you. I'm not putting any computer chips in my brain. I don't care if you think we have to compete against robots and AI, or else they're going to take over. Now, you compete. I'm good, right? Um, but I like what he's doing with Twitter or X, and I like his position about a lot of things. So yeah. Anyway, who cares? But that's my opinion. Um, Virgo moon, definitely can relate to him on that. Um, Mercury is bringing the third house. So yeah, so like smart guy, right? Third lord, Mercury in the first house. Mercury is directionally gains a lot of it gains strength in conjunct the ascendant. It's a good place because it makes a person very smart, right? So especially if it's a third lord, and it also activated third lord with you know Moon, part of fortune, and Pluto in Virgo, right? And also the 12th, which is interesting. 12th house, actually, he comes from South Africa, so that's one signification of that, being coming from an exotic place, 12th lord in the first, foreign connection to foreign things. It could also relate to being very creative, highly creative, which he is. Also, Venus in Gemini in the 12th would also point to that as well. So intellectually creative, highly, yeah. Um, it's a square. We could look at that. The square to actually that's a mutual reception between Moon and Mercury. So that second, third house significations there, and first, and then square to Chiron's interesting. Um, I there must have been something with his intellect or his education. Whoa, I know. Asperger's. He has Asperger's. Yeah, yeah. Leslie Nielsen. Leslie Nielsen, awesome, awesome. Aquarius stellium, and this dude is like one of the funniest guys on the planet. He's just complete jokes. He's just like full. He's just nonstop laughter. But he does have exalted Mars on the ascendant, ruling the third house of communication and the MC, right? So yeah, very prominent for his career, for being famous comedian, funny guy. Um, he actually has very little. Oh, well, he's got Neptune and Ceres and then Chiron in fire signs, but not a lot of fire, right? But enough, I guess. Um, and what's really interesting is that his comedy is subdued because of the fire, the lack of fire. Not a lot of strong fire like Chiron. Yeah, okay, Neptune, fine, good, but there's not like a real solid uh personal planet in fire signs. Um, so he comes off kind of like almost like he's not going to be funny, and then he's fucking hilarious. Like he's just ridiculously, insanely hilarious. Um, anyway, that's all this Aquarius stuff. With Jupiter and Aquarius, Venus, Mercury, Sun, Moon. It's ridiculous. In the second house. I mean, come on. Third Lord, and then Uranus in the third in Pisces, um, semi-sextile Sun. You know, cover everything. Yeah. All right. Katy Perry. Holy Scorpio, Batman. She's deeply scorpionic. Look at the Sun, Cazimi, Pluto in Scorpio. Um, what's really interesting about Katy Perry is that she's like hiding. I think she's so freaking scorpionic that she downplays it. She just like tries to hide it and like just be like, no, I'm just a pretty pop star. But she's like get to know her. I'm sure she's. Sometimes these Scorpio people, they appear a lot nicer and less threatening than they are. But believe me, Scorpios it's one of it's the sign of FAFO. Fuck around, find out, right? That's literally uh it was made for that sign. Or that saying was made after Scorpio. Like somebody who like dealt with a Scorpio and they're like, holy shit, fuck around, find out. I mean, essentially. I don't know, probably. But yeah. Mercury is closest to her ascendant, Scorpio. Mercury is ruling the eighth again, and the 11th. But I mean, there's so many planets here, right? So it's just it's all about Katy Perry is all about Katy Perry, right? And everyone else is all about Katy Perry who comes into her life. Of course, actually, she's got a North Node in Taurus in the seventh, so she's going to be about partnerships, right? Especially as she gets older. And North Node conjunct Ceres. I can't help think of Russell Brand because that was her partner. So Ceres is many significations, but loss is one of them. So there's some interesting things about a partnership, that's for sure. Chiron is still in the seventh. Anyway, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I saw a video of her like with her like she was I think pregnant and getting the baby room ready, and it was creepy as fuck. Like I'm just not gonna lie, like she's creepy. Like when she's not on stage singing, like you can see all that Scorpio. She's creepy. That's that deep, like watery Scorpio depths. Oh my God. So Moon conjunct Saturn exact in Scorpio in the first, right? So she's like all kinds of Scorpio here. It's difficult to really parse out the different parts, but because it's like all in there, it's all coming to her. And of course, she's got a very powerful Mars in the third, so she's probably very aggressive too, right? You push her, you're gonna see all this Scorpio and then this exalted Mars and Jupiter. It's expanded, right? Whatever. She's probably not easy to deal with at all. Narcissist. I would say narcissist. Okay, Michael Phelps. Really interesting because he's got, I mean, actually Ceres is closest to his ascendant, but Mars and Cancer, right? Mars part makes sense, but so the Cancer is interesting. Well, let's look at it. Michael Phelps, multi-gold Olympic swimmer. All right. Mars is ruling the fifth house. Well, no, it's not rule, it's the fifth cusp. Taking up most of the fifth house. Dispositing Pluto, South Node, and Saturn. So that definitely makes sense. Pluto and Saturn are going to make fifth house things, games all work, right? It's just like and Scorpio, so deep and intense, like severe, hard work, right? And then Moon in the sixth, very competitive, right? That's his ascendant lord, part of fortune. So his body, Uranus, speed. Uranus is speed, by the way. Uranus is now. Uranus don't deal with time. It's like we are done now. Like let's get done now. That's why it's also like rhythm, explosion. Anyway, but it's fast. There's no real. It's not a lot of dignity here. Yeah. So fifth, and then 11th. So that's interesting. 11th also dispositing. Well, no, it's not. There's nothing really in. Anyway, 11th cusp. So team, even though he's a solo swimmer, he probably works well with the team and groups. And yeah, the main thing is that the Mars doing this. And so Cancer, yeah. But water signs, I guess, would be the connection, right? Cancer, Scorpio, MC in Pisces, right? With um, Jupiter in the eighth. Interesting. Aquarius, waves. So I don't know. I'd have to think about that or look deeper into his life, figure out how that plays out. But anyway, definitely Pisces, and then the water signs, and then Mars. So yeah, interesting. He's probably very emotional, right? And emotionally volatile even, but very, very hardworking and competitive. Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves, he's like a fine wine. He just gets better and better with age. Of course, he's got North Node in the 10th, so yeah. But Virgo stellium here with Mercury Cazimi, um, the sun, and exalted Mercury retrograde, and then Uranus 1 degree, and then Pluto, the 60s conjunction of Pluto Uranus, pretty much conjunct the ascendant. Pluto is 1 degree from the ascendant. It makes them very powerful, right? It makes them very dynamic, very unique, and um, it it allows him, even though he's a Virgo, to play these darker, heavier roles, like John Wick, like what's the name, Neo from the Matrix, and then other, I think he's done other crime stuff. So like very heavy, kind of plutonic, and Uranian roles. It's very dynamic, right? Um, Pluto is drawing from the third house, so expression, communication, um, dispositing Neptune, um, the sextile. That's pretty good. Uranus is drawing in sixth house stuff. So hard work, repetition, series. You can keep doing like movies over and over again, like John Wick, you could probably draw that out to like number 10 or 11 or something. Who knows? Lana Del Rey. So Lana Del Rey, South Node and Saturn in the first. South Node conjunct the ascendant, Scorpio rising. And Saturn, just that's not the planet I wanted to look at, but Saturn, for her stiffness, right? Like she's criticized for being like a dead person. Like Saturn and Scorpio, I guess, is like a dead person, right? Because it's like stiff, and Scorpio is like, rules death, right? So it's like she's kind of like a dead person on stage, right? But South Node. So like when she's young, she's gonna have tons of partners, right? And then as she gets older, she's really gonna find her person, right? And fall in love. Venus and Taurus. Like some beautiful man, right? Artist or something. I don't know. Just somebody really Venusian in Taurus, somebody very beautiful. She's just gonna like be obsessed about them. But when she's young, she's probably just gonna date and date and date, right? And a lot of confidence comes from South Node conjunct the ascendant. Not so much with Saturn. Saturn's going to cause a lot of fear and doubt, but South Node alone will cause. So she's got this kind of push pull between being confident and being very scared and stiff and frozen. And then also her ascendant Lord Mars is in Cancer, and then like you do see her gaining weight as she gets older, and that's partially why. Also connected to Ceres, so maybe that also showing relationship to food. It's in Cancer, so relating to women, she has food issues, I'm sure. Christina Ricci. Um, okay, so Jupiter and then Mars. All right. Jupiter and Virgo. Jupiter's not in great dignity here. Um, Mars is fine. Jupiter is ruling the seventh and the fourth. So at a young age, right? One of her first roles, I remember, it was Wednesday Addams, and not Scorpio, right? Virgo. Of course, third house Uranus and Scorpio, and then Pluto in the second, right? So Pluto, Scorpio is there, but Virgo, right? And so I always thought like the archetype of Wednesday Addams is very Virgo Scorpio kind of mix, right? Um, yeah, very smart, but also like kind of has that darkness. Um, but yeah, from a youth, fourth house, right? Somebody made a comment that like Gemini stellium was responsible for youth. It's not, it's fourth house, fourth lord, and south node. All right. Anyway, um, fourth house, Neptune, Sag. That's going to be great for movies, especially young. Um, Seventh Lord in the first also indicates that her partnership, actually, but no, let me take that back. Mercury is in mutual reception with Jupiter, so that helps a lot. But there could be like codependency or abuse on both sides, abusive relationships. But over time, it'll probably she'll learn from experience. I imagine this playing out, especially younger as a youth, bad relationships that she will learn from, and it'll because of the mutual reception that's gonna these planets are going to learn from each other. Mercury's going to take from Virgo, Jupiter's going to take from Pisces, and they're going to grow that way. There's also Mars here. And yeah, I mean, she has an interesting look, right? It's not like drop dead gorgeous like some other women, but it's definitely unique, right? And it's the Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn all in Virgo kind of quality. Um, but it definitely helps with um, her career being a larger than life persona. What else? And also Jupiter ruling the seventh will help her being like having roles that are co where she has co-star, where she's playing roles with other people and relating to people just in general. Rihanna. Now Rihanna is a good example of that abusive relationship because it's Venus, but it's Aries, right? Venus seventh lord, Aries the first. Of course, Moon, Venus, that's great for beauty, great for that emotional expression, right? For an artist, a performer, someone on the world stage. Uh, Both very feminine, but Aries is not feminine. And Venus is obviously in debility in Aries, and it's abuse, right? And so she was abused by her partner. Venus is also ruling the second house of singing, right? And beauty, aesthetics, fashion, right? She made a lot of money there. And it's also Taurus and Venus, and part of fortune in Taurus in the second. So that makes a lot of sense. Okay. The Governor, Schwarzenegger. Not surprisingly, he's got Mercury in the first in Cancer, and I don't know what business he's involved in, but Mercury is yeah, it's intellectual, but it's also look, it's the fourth lord, the third lord, the fourth lord as well. And I see um managerial. It wants to kind of organize things, and especially if it's like in Cancer, there's concern for the homeland, especially fourth lord. He's political, right? Um, Let's try and Jupiter. That's good. Jupiter exalts in Cancer. So Jupiter is dignifying this Mercury. Uh, it's also ruling the 12th house, right? So for movies, creativity, also foreign lands. He's a foreigner, right? Same as Elon Musk. So traveling to foreign lands or resettling in foreign lands, but as well as creativity, things like that, communication, and yeah. We can look at the dispositor. I don't want to take too long, but obviously sixth house Capricorn, hyper competitive, especially moon in Capricorn in the sixth. Probably kind of cold and mean. All right. Nina Simone, Saturn in Aquarius rising. Um, Saturn ruling the 12th and the 1st. So that's powerful. Also for creativity, right? Also, I don't know if she resettled. I don't know if she was born somewhere and then resettled somewhere else, but that could be possible. Um, Saturn in general will create um yeah, like a certain stiffness, but it's in good dignity. There's Venus there, so art, creativity, beauty. Saturn ruling the 12th is very creative. So like a kind of mastery, for sure. Authority, leadership. Um, yeah, in Aquarian themes. I don't know enough about her to comment on like her politics, which I would think she has, strong. I know. Um, yeah, definitely. She was because I from the little I read that she's a black woman, of course, but she was very concerned with her being her black people. She was deeply concerned with black people. So Aquarius, right? The people. Saturn. She was a leader. I guess you could say she was um, one of many civil rights leaders through her music. You know, so there. That fits that. Of course, very loaded Piscean. Uh, you could call it a stellium or whatever. Just all the series: Sun, North Node, Mercury, part of Fortune, and Pisces, all coming into the second house cusp. Opposite Jupiter. Jupiter's dignifying them. A little out of degree, but Neptune as well would dignify them. North Node. Ben Stiller, son of Jerry Stiller. Jupiter and Gemini, rising retrograde. Right? And so that's Ben Stiller. Uh, Jupiter's ruling the MC with a loaded 10th house here. And the 7th. Right? Uh, his father is funny, which is interesting because you got this Pluto Uranus in Virgo in the 4th, this the 60s conjunction. Um, and the 4th, indicates family, parents, right? And so his father kind of has this thing, Jerry Stiller, he's on Seinfeld. He's like one of the who's he? Like George's father or Jerry's father? I can't remember. One of the fathers. Anyway, he's always yelling. Like he's definitely like this Pluto Virgo kind of character, right? Um, Pluto Uranus Virgo kind of character, like this really intense, explosive but funny kind of guy. That's Jerry Stiller. But Ben Stiller has the Jupiter and Gemini retrograde, so that's funny, right? It's funny. It's not like it's ruling the MC. It's not like Leslie Nielsen funny or Jim Carrey funny or Jerry Lewis, but it's like he's funny, right? So yeah, there's different levels of funny, obviously. And he's got the fire, Sag, Sun, Mercury, South Node, so that's going to help a lot. North Node in Gemini. Um, yeah, Jupiter and Gemini is going to make him very verbose, right? Talk a lot. Probably not religious. Um, Jupiter ruling the 7th in the 1st shows that his partner is maybe going to talk his head off. It's Jupiter, so but it's not great dignity. So maybe his wife, maybe they just both like blah, 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 all day long, diarrhea of the mouth. But there's going to be something not great about his partner towards him. Taylor Swift has a very powerful Mars in Scorpio conjunct the ascendant. She's got that look. I mean, that's part of her thing. It's just like this kind of exotic look. Mars is ruling the ascendant, and it's the fifth cusp, so that's perfect, right? Entertainment. And is kind of fierce. And then she's also one of these Illuminati people. You can, if you look for it, you can see like satanic imagery in her videos and her concerts and stuff like that. It is what it is, right? It's just it's a thing. They all do it. A lot of them. All right, Nikola Tesla, another Pluto rising. And for this, Pluto is bringing in very deep, powerful, obsessive, intellect, right? Pluto pulling in seventh house, so powerful people as well. J.P. Morgan, right? And Pluto in Taurus opposites rulership. You can see that, like, okay, so J.P. Morgan is going to fund Nikola Tesla, but then he's going to pull his funds, and it's going to ruin Nikola Tesla. It's like Nikola Tesla was like, it's so dependent on JP Morgan and the funds, the power of this hugely powerful Taurus, right? Pluto Taurus, powerful banker, Taurus. But it's not in great dignity, right? And it ruins him. Almost ruined. I don't know if it ruined him, but it definitely set him back. It definitely was hard on him. But besides that, Pluto is going to make him very obsessive and deep thinking, research oriented, powerful. And not just powerful, but like, what did he do? Nikola Tesla, like, just completely revolutionized science and technology and electricity. And Uranus is still in the first whole sign house, right? So yeah, there was a very destructive quality there. Well, that's Pluto not in great dignity. Margaret Thatcher, Saturn and Scorpio conjunct the ascendant. Really powerful because obviously she was prime minister of the UK. Saturn, leader, authority, ruler. Scorpio, dominating, controlling, right? Scorpio is also a leader, but Scorpio is more of a personal leader, right? Scorpio wants to lead personally and almost secretively, like mafia bosses or something like that, or just like personal bosses or like dominatrix. These are all very Scorpionic vibes, right? Power over, right? So she liked to have the power, she liked to have the authority, she liked to have the leadership, she liked to be like the Iron Lady. Saturn is ruling the third, mostly just the third. So the intellect, right? Intellect, communication, powerful expression. Right? Jupiter, well, it's dispositing Jupiter, which is also ruling the fourth. And then Uranus is in the fourth, so definitely very political, and yeah, bringing in those qualities as well to her. Politics, homeland, South Node, going into politics young, being a powerful communicator. Charlize Theron, she's a great example of stationary Venus, and great example of that. Even though Venus is in Virgo, where it's not so great, stationary makes it so unique, because here Venus is not in great dignity, and you would not think Venus in Virgo conjunct the ascendant would be all that powerful. But when it's stationary, it's tremendous, right? Stationary planets gain so much strength that it doesn't even matter if it's in poor dignity. It's fine, like it's okay, right? There's other examples of that. Tony Robbins one. His Mercury's almost stationary in Pisces, but he's brilliant, right? He's not like a scientist, he's not like a detailed thinker, but like in a Piscean way, he's brilliant, right? So and she's gorgeous. It's like she's like super, like her looks are like phenomenal. That's the Venus conjunct the ascendant, part of fortune conjunct the ascendant. Just her face is like so powerful, right? Venus is ruling the ninth and the second. So look, definitely looks, not just her face, also her dress, like impeccable. Like she knows style, she knows fashion, right? And she knows how to present herself. Speaking, acting, all of that. Ninth house, she's probably very high-minded, right? Very well educated and philosophical. Um, Again, I'm not vouching for her politics or her social issues. I know she's like, you know, delusional, you know, woke, but whatever. I mean, can't have everything, I guess. Donald Trump, everyone's favorite president. Well, yeah, I mean, it's true. It's like you either love him or hate him. Really, most people are not neutral about Donald Trump. Anyway, he's got Mars and Leo conjunct the Ascendant. Mars ruling the ninth house and the fourth house. So fourth house for real estate, that's very obvious. Ninth house, travel. He's got his own jet. Um, Philosophy, high-mindedness. I mean, education. I'm not sure what his education is, but he's probably bringing um, philosophy, religion into something very personal to him, right? Mars conjunct the ascendant is going to make him more aggressive, more bold, more initiating, especially in Leo. A lot of pride. Mars and Leo. I have Mars and Leo. Tons of pride, tons of ego. It's really like really forceful, right? Because it's tied into the male initiating action, aggression. You get him angry, you're going to see that Mars for sure. Um, you know, yeah, it's spotted by the Sun conjunct North Node Uranus in the 10th. Obviously, no need to go belabor that one. Uh, this guy. Okay, so I have to include my chart. The mediocre astrologer. He's pretty mediocre, if you ask me. This guy, he thinks he's an astrologer. He's I don't know. He's got Uranus rising. It's retrograde. It's in Scorpio, along with North Node. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like if you knew my life, it'd be ridiculous. Like you'd just be like, wow, you're ridiculous. Because it's Uranus, North Node, Scorpio retrograde. So it's like um all the energy is coming into me. It's Uranus, total rebellion, independence, retrograde, like rebellion times rebellion. It's Scorpio is like so harsh, right? So deep and so like, not pulling any punches, deep, authentic, raw. Um and At the same time, Scorpio has a desire, intense desire to be intimate with others, right? And um to share um resources to share with others, to share space, to share life, right? um you know it's in conjunct Venus anyway. I'm going to go all into that, but Uranus ruling the fourth, family, homeland, part of fortune, astrology, right? Uranus and Scorpio, that's very astrological. So yeah, I'm hyper rebellious, in case you haven't noticed yet. And yeah, it's only going to increase as North Node is applying to Uranus. The progressed aspect gets tighter and tighter. So it's just going to increase, in case you're wondering. I'm only going to get more and more Uranian and rebellious and scorpionic and powerful, right? So well, there's something to look forward to. Amy Winehouse. Um, North Node in Gemini, conjunct the Ascendant. And here's another interesting one, because she died so young, but like her partner that she was obsessed with, that's represented here by South Node and Neptune. Oh, Moon in Capricorn as well, right? Even to some extent Jupiter and Uranus. But he was not a good guy, as far as I can tell. I think his name is Blake, but definitely the Sagittarian Neptune quality with the moon in Capricorn would explain what I feel, what I gather from him. Definitely drugs, alcohol, bad influence, cold, hard, moon in Capricorn. But anyway, if she had lived long enough, she would have been drawn into herself. She would have dropped that loser, and she would have been become much more invested in her music because Mercury, skills of the hands, writing, communicating, expressing, and Mercury conjunct the Sun in the fifth house in Virgo, Mercury Virgo, right? Very powerful. Venus conjunct Mars and Leo station, Venus stationary, right? But in the fourth house. It's really relating to youth, but also her physicality, her body. Yeah. Third whole sign house as well. So also instrumentation, skills, communication. Let's keep going. Can't believe, wow, 45 charts over like that. Stevie Wonder, Neptune in Libra retrograde, conjunct the Ascendant. Neptune pulling from sixth house, but dispositing this Jupiter in Pisces, very powerful. Jupiter in Pisces in the fifth house, entertainment, creative, right? Yeah, Neptune, highly creative, in a Venus ruled sign. So that's going to enhance the creativity. Retrograde is going to make it more unique, more independent, more just on his own, like on a different unique. What's interesting is that the ascendant Lord Venus is in poor dignity, and so he was blind, obviously, right? So that shows some weakness, physical weakness. I'm not sure. I haven't studied medical astrology, but it's probably related to Sun in the eighth, semi-square the Venus in Aries semi-square. That's actually somewhat of a mutual reception, interestingly enough, because Venus rules Taurus and Sun is exalted in Aries. But anyway, the Neptune in the first is definitely giving him this very expansive, creative, exotic identity, right? Persona, something very personal to him, and bringing in sixth house signification. So he's probably hardworking, right? Probably just like daily being creative, and of course, drawing in this Jupiter as well, dispositing this Jupiter. Mars ruling the second. I'm not trying to do a deep dive here, but because that would be the voice, but also Taurus. You can look to Taurus, so Sun and Mercury in Taurus, North Node Venus, right? So Sun trine Mars. So yeah. And also South Node in the 12th, but conjunct the Ascendant. So definitely he would find love as he got older, and I think he did. I think if I'm not mistaken, he found somebody and had a child. I can't be sure of that, but I think that's what happened. But yeah, with North Node conjunct Venus, even though it's not great dignity, it's close enough to the descendant. So it's like as he gets older, he really wants to have love, and he probably finds it. Also, because it's his ascendant Lord, so that shows as he gets older. This is interesting because it's like South Node conjunct the ascendant North Node. So it's like, yeah, relationships and self both are going to be in a sort of balance in the first and second half of his life. So it's almost like a continuation or a polarity reversal between self and others. Yeah, but very creative with Neptune rising. And that's it. That is all the planets conjunct the ascendant. And I hope you guys found this interesting, entertaining, and educational. Right? Hit that like button if you found it any of those and you liked it. If you didn't hate it, it'll do me a favor. Subscribe if you can. Book a reading with me. You can just email me, macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. and leave a comment down below. But like, yeah, just make sure if you're gonna correct me, you know what you're talking about, because that's annoying. And no rude comments, please. Anyway, and if you want to say you didn't like it, that's fine, but also say why you didn't like. Some people are like, this sucks. I'm just like, okay, that's not helpful. Like, tell me what you didn't like about it. Anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. Mediocre astrologer signing off. Man, he's okay. And I hope you guys are okay too. And no matter what's going on in your life, find time to laugh it off, take a victory laugh, and win before you win. That means have a positive attitude, because that will get you to a winning place in life. So guys, I will see you again next time. All right. Thanks. Bye.